Good morning, and thank you so much for being here again. I'm glad you're here. I'm going to be talking about ghosts. Now, those of you here last Sunday, you remember probably where I got the name of this talk from. I was speaking about Jesus walking on the water to the disciples, and the water was turbulent, and the storm was whiplashing the boat that they were on, and the disciples saw this man walking on the water, and they cried out, the Bible says in a loud voice, "It's a ghost!" And I immediately broke into, who are you going to call? Ghostbusters. So I'm using that as the title, but I'm going to be speaking about a kind of different ghost. My dictionary shares with me that there are about 5 different definitions of what a ghost is. And I have chosen to use definition number 3, which my Funkin' Wagno says, a haunting collection of something from the past, like ghosts from the past. So this morning, I'm going to talk about ways that we can achieve freedom from this haunting collection of ghosts that we may have in our past. We all have stored memories, thoughts, and feelings about experiences that we had in the past that didn't go as lovingly, perhaps, as we may have wanted them. We have memories and feelings about ourselves, and when we have reacted to things and have made decisions which were not for the highest and best of all those concerned. We've all said and done things that hurt others in the past, and we have done and said things that have reverberated and hurt us as well. We all have regrets about things we have done, and the should-itis and the ought-itis. Things we should have done, ought have done, and didn't. And although these experiences may be long past, they are alive at times in us. When those negative feelings and the thoughts come back, I'm going to share one with you that, now this would seem very innocent, but you know, it affected me. When I was growing up, and I guess I was about 6 years old, and Denise, our middle sister, was born, and she was lying there in her crib, and Mom wasn't around, okay? No one else was around, and I smacked Denise on her leg and made the baby cry. And it alarmed me, okay, because I guess I just wanted to see what the reaction would be here. But I thought later, how mean-spirited, okay? And so I thought of that, and when I was thinking of this, it would seem like an innocent thing, but here, hey, guys, you know, I'm 63 years old, okay? That was a long time ago, and Denise doesn't even remember it. But here it is. It's a memory in my mind about a time when I was unkind. So that's one ghost, an example of a ghost that I have. Okay? There are many ways, of course, to free ourselves from these ghosts of the past. And I'm going to be sharing with you several of those ways. But just so that you know, we teach here in Unity that there is a mighty ghostbuster that indwells each of us. And yes, we often call that the Christ. We don't say it's the Ghostbuster, but it's the same thing, because the power of that presence in us that we call the Christ. Now, the Christ is that personalized, individualized expression or presence of God that's in me and also indwells each of you. And this Ghostbuster can be called upon at any time to move us out of that bondage we may have to that past experience. There are so many ways to do ghost busting. Prayer, meditation, using affirmations and positive statements of truth, doing our spiritual exercises, using visualization or creative imagery, and surrender and forgiveness and our willingness to follow the guidance of divine love in us. All of these are ways to bust those ghosts, release them, banish them. The thing is that we have to want to let them go. We have to be ready to have them be gone in our lives. And yes, when I think of smacking Denise on her leg, okay, I don't feel guilt and all of that, but it's still, there's that little thing here that says, and it's an example, that I too can be cruel. That there is, even though we are spiritual beings, we are learning and growing through this physical experience. in this school that we call life. The unity standard is that we go first to God when we have a need, when those ghosts are knocking on the door, okay? When the old memories that haunt us come back. We go first to God and then to man as God directs. So sometimes we find ourselves guided and directed to talk it out with a friend, with a counselor, a minister, a doctor. God provides all of this. And it is all being provided by that magnificent Ghostbuster called the Christ in each of us. Now, the thing is that when we turn in prayer or meditation to divine guidance in how to eradicate a negative feeling that haunts us, we have to be willing to follow divine guidance and do what we are led to do. We should not be like this repairman who got in trouble because he refused to follow the direction and the guidance that he was given. A woman whose dishwasher quit working called a repairman to come fix it, and she had to go to work the next day. So she told the repairman, I'm going to leave my key under the mat at the front door. Just come in, fix the washer, and leave the bill on the counter, and I will send a check to pay for it. Oh, and by the way, don't worry about my bulldog. He won't bother you. And so she added, but whatever you do, do not, under any circumstances, talk to my parrot. I repeat, do not talk to my parrot. Well, when the repairman arrived at Wanda's apartment the following day, he discovered the biggest, meanest, baddest looking bulldog he had ever seen. And for a moment, he felt a little bit of fear. But just as the woman had said, the dog just lay there, quiet and peaceful, while he worked on fixing the washer. The parrot was another thing. The parrot drove him nuts the whole time with his incessant yelling. The parrot was cussing and calling names and doing all kinds of things, and finally, he couldn't stand it. The repairman couldn't contain himself any longer, so he finally said, "Shut up, you stupid, ugly bird!" To which the parrot replied, "Get him, Spike." Goes to show you what can happen when you don't follow divine guidance, okay? There are two kinds of ghosts from the past. The ghosts which are generated by the actions of others. These I call the "they done me wrong" ghosts. We may be allowing these guys to keep haunting us because we feel that our anger, our resentment is righteous. We were hurt. They abused us. They betrayed us, okay? So we feel having these ghosts reanimated is what it should be. And you know, to our human self, this may seem like the ordinary thing to do. But you know, we are not ordinary humans. We are spiritual beings expressing through humanity. Oftentimes we hold on to these "what they done to me" ghosts because we don't understand what forgiveness is. Sometimes we think that if we forgive this person, we're giving them this gift and they don't deserve it because they hurt us. Okay? Sometimes we think that if we forgive them, we're letting them off the hook. We're saying basically that it didn't matter that we were hurt. That's not true either. And sometimes we think that if we forgive this situation, we're just going to open that door and it's just going to happen again and again and again. That's not true either. What we don't realize is that by re-feeling what we felt from a past experience, okay, it becomes alive again in our subconscious mind. Though the situation is gone, and though life has changed and we've moved in certain directions, and so has that person who hurt us, we bring that situation right back into the present now. And we forget that right now is the only time we have to be open to that presence and power we call God, the Christ in us. And we must remember that when we forgive, we're not doing anything for that other person who hurt us. We are choosing not to continue to drink the poison of anger and resentment, fear, anxiety. Then there are the second kind of ghosts, the what the heck am I doing ghosts. These are the ghosts that we ourselves generate when we have been the offender in past experiences. The ghost that's haunting us now is the pain, the shame, maybe the guilt that we hold on to, maybe the anger towards ourselves because we didn't do what we felt we needed to, because we failed in something, or because we let someone else down who was counting on us. But we haven't been strong enough to kick those guys out of the house of our heart and mind. These ghosts, the what the heck am I doing ghosts, they're sneaky. They pop out when we don't expect them. But we can be aware of them when we pay attention to our attitude, our words, and especially our self-talk. We have all heard what these ghosts have to say. They constantly tell us that because of what we did or didn't do in the past, we are bad people. We don't deserve to experience God's good, God's blessings. These ghosts tell us that we must hold on to these bad feelings about ourselves because we should be punished. And we know in unity that God doesn't punish us. We punish ourselves. We set up situations that cause us pain. And we may fear that forgiving ourselves in some way means that we might do the same thing again. This is not the truth of us. The truth is that we are meant to live fully and abundantly as expressions of God, children of God, heirs to all the good that God is. And the ghosts from our painful past can keep us outside this experience with the entrance gate locked. But we can be freed from our ghosts the instant that we are ready to be free of them. We often think that forgiveness is, and yes, it is a process, and we often think that it's a long process. It's going to take a while before I forgive myself or before I forgive that person for what they did. Okay? And this just indicates that we're still wanting to hold on, But the part of the forgiveness process is what it takes for us to be ready to let go of the ghosts. What it is that allows us to stand up and say, no, I'm not going to have this, okay? And when the ghosts come knocking, okay, those bad feelings resurface, we kick them out the door. The Christ in us empowers us to do this ghost busting. Psychologist Alicia Goldman created a free email program called Daily Now Moments. This was a couple of years ago. And on this, he came up with a practice that he called the freedom practice. And I wanted to share it with you because it can be useful in gaining freedom from styles of thinking that don't serve us any longer, that keep us stuck, feeling stressful, feeling anxious, or even depression or addictions. Goldman calls these styles of thinking mind traps. I'm calling them ghosts today. Mind traps, he says, are styles. Like, for example, if you are always blaming people, blaming yourself, blaming situations, that's a style. Or the person who is always exaggerating negative things and discounting the positive things in their life. And also there are those who are always, and he uses the term, catastrophizing, making everything into a catastrophe. Goldman says when you first notice a mind trap, that is when you first notice a ghost from your painful past knocking on that door, wanting entrance into your mind and your heart, the first thing he says is to stop. Take an internal deep breath, and from this more mindful place, move through these next 4 steps. And he calls them name, feel, release, and redirect. And the first thing is name your ghost. Give it a name. Identify it. What is knocking? What feeling? What attitude is wanting to resurface from your painful past? Give it a name, whether it's anger, jealousy, resentment, the urge for revenge. And then, two, feel your ghost. Now that sounds kind of strange, but what he's talking about is recognize how the moment feels when this ghost is upon you, wanting to attack. Notice how your body feels, whether it's stressful or tense. Number three, release your ghost. He says that you should practice an affirmation in concert with breathing. And he suggests something like this. I breathe in, acknowledging the feeling that's here, and I breathe out, releasing it. This is a great affirmation. I breathe in. Would you affirm that with me? I breathe in, and I acknowledge the feeling that's here. And I acknowledge the feeling that is here. And then I breathe out, and I release it. Okay. Simple, but I think powerful. A powerful way to banish, to release, to kick the ghosts out. And number four, he says, redirect the energy that you have been putting into your ghost self. Shift your attention to something, he says, that's healthier or more meaningful, that's loving, that is indicative of that which indwells you, that's indicative of the spiritual person that you are. You are, as Jesus said, the light of the world. We are only the channels. Another technique that I'm going to share is the one that Emmett Fox has shared. It's called the golden key. Now, I know that this technique has been shared here before, and I think it's a powerful one and yet a very simple one for those times when we are letting the negative feelings from the past overwhelm us. Emmett Fox calls this scientific prayer, and basically the basis of why this golden key works is the awareness that God is all-powerful. God is all there is. And that we are created in God's image and likeness. And therefore, we have dominion over all things. Even the power over these ghosts that would seem to want to bring us down and take our joy from the present moment. Fox explains that all that we have to do in this technique is, instead of thinking about the problem, or the fear, or the resentment, or the anger, think about God instead. Substitute thoughts about God. Now, he said, don't try to create a picture of God. Just work with the ideas that you think of that describe God. For example, God is wisdom. God is love. God is peace. God is joy. God is my understanding. God is my guidance. Whatever it is, and just keep going with that. If you run out of adjectives for God, it's okay to repeat them. What we're doing is a kind of spiritual mantra, and that is repeating a phrase, certain kinds of energy, okay? And this exercise is a ghost buster. I have copied in your program Emmett Fox's golden key, and you might like to try that exercise at home. Because all we have to do with that is stop thinking about the difficulty, whatever it is, and think about God instead. Now, he says, now, if you find yourself worrying again or feeling the anxiety or the fear again, go ahead and substitute God thoughts once again, because, you know, there's a thing about ghosts wanting to come back. If you are continually glancing over your shoulder to see how well this technique is working, then guess what? You're not thinking about God. You're thinking about the problem. Your object, he says, is to drive the ghost out of your thought. Let go of the difficulty in your consciousness and substitute God instead. And then he says that when you're done with this exercise, then you can meet that challenge. You can meet that negative energy from a different place in consciousness, from a place of peace. Leave the ways and means to God. You want to get out of your difficulty, and that's all you need to know. So you do your half, Emmett Fox says, and God will do God's half. As long as we're spiritual beings expressing through this human self, having human experiences in this school called life, some people are going to do things that cause us to feel hurt. And we're going to do things, that cause other people to feel hurt. That's kind of like, Humanity 101. But if we respect ourselves and we have goodwill toward others, we can always move past the ghosts. Remember though, if we choose to walk around with all this baggage from our painful past, we can. It's our choice. But it's not the fun way, I'll tell you, to spend a night out on the town. A successful rancher died, and he left everything to his devoted wife. She was a very good-looking woman, and she was determined to keep the ranch, even though she didn't know the first thing about ranching. So she decided to put an ad in the paper and hire a ranch hand. And so she did. 2 cowboys applied to her ad. One guy was a gay person, and the other guy was a drunk. And she thought long and hard about it, and when no one else applied to her ad, she decided to hire the gay guy, because she figured, it would be easier having the gay guy around the house than it would be dealing with a drunk around the house. And this guy proved to be an exceptionally hard worker. He put in long hours every day, and he knew a lot about ranching. For weeks, the 2 of them worked together, and the ranch was doing very well. Then one day, the rancher's widow said to the hired hand, you have done such an excellent job, and I'm so grateful for you. You should go into town and kick up your heels for a change. And the hired man, he readily agreed. So he went into town on a Saturday night. 1 o'clock, however, he didn't return. 2 o'clock, no hired hand. Finally, he returned around 2:30, and upon entering the room, he found the rancher's widow sitting by the fireplace with a glass of wine, waiting for him. She quietly called him to come to her. "Unbutton my blouse and take it off," she said. Trembling, he did as he was directed. "Now take off my boots." He did as she asked and placed them neatly beside her. "Take off my socks now." And he removed each one gently and placed them by her feet. "Now take off my skirt." He slowly unbuttoned it, constantly watching her eyes in the firelight. "Now take off my bra." Again, with trembling hands, he did as he was told, and he dropped it to the floor. Then she looked at him and said, "If you ever wear my clothes into town again, you're fired." A mind is a terrible thing to waste. I didn't see it coming either the first time I read this story. But the point that I want to share in using this story is that when we refuse to let the ghost of our past pass, we clothe ourselves in all the negativity that those thoughts and feelings from the past bring to us. The ghost of our painful past would have us go about wearing the dress of failure, a coat of despair. We may find ourselves walking in the boots of criticism of others and self-condemnation. We may play the victim role over and over again because this is what our ghosts want us to do. When we open the door to our painful past and we don't do the work of getting them healed, of releasing them, of freeing them, because they want to be free. Ghosts want to move on. What happens is that we continue to drag out from the closets of our past the clothes of emotion that truly do not belong to us anymore. We can bust them. We can banish them. We can heal them through surrender to God, forgiveness, being present with God, and following the guidance that we receive in prayer and meditation. Let Christ, which is divine love, in you be your ghost buster. In this, we have a true ghost buster. It's who you're gonna call. God bless you.